I say? Okay.
This is my father's side of the family, and there is a plot next to my father's grave that could be for me that my mother said I could have, but I don't really want to do that. Here's my father. His name was Lamar Joseph Robillard, and we figured this would be best to put on his grave. I did it my way. Our beloved Papa. He was born in 1908 and he died in 1993. We had a family reunion, and I flew up here for the reunion, and my dad died 2 weeks after the reunion. This was my father, and he was, his mother was Irene Picard. She was Ojibwa. His father was Louis Robillard, Ojibwa. Lamar spent the first 5 years of his life in an orphanage at Asinnins. In high school, he was a basketball and hockey player. Lamar married Mabel Omier in 1935, my mother. He owned and operated dump trucks his entire life, and he became a first-class bowler. He was a golfer. Lamar was a member of the Keweenaw Bay Indian community, and his enrollment number was 890. His blood degree was 3/4. That was my father. This was my father's mother, Irene Collins. And this was my step-grandfather, Alger Collins. My Grandma Collins was wonderful to me. I loved her very much.
Can we talk about this? What is this? The birds.
My brother made that. I have no idea what that means.
3 birds.
I have no idea. This here was my dad's brother. His name was Louis Robillard, and he was a famous Indian scout, Ojibwa. Can you see that?
Yeah.
My brother made this. I think that was wonderful. When you have a monument that is this big, that means that your family is very notable. This was my Grandma King, and there you see the crown with the cross through it. That meant nobility. Alright, now I'm going to read this. Arsley Willett was born in 1870 in Marquette. That was my great-great-grandmother. She was an Ojibwa. Enrollment number was unknown. She married John Picard, who was born in 1871 on the L'Anse Indian Reservation. That's where I live now. He was Ojibwa. His enrollment number is unknown. John was a ship's captain on the Great Lakes. He and Arsley divorced, and John moved to Detroit, and he was a captain on a big tugboat in the Detroit River until his death. Arsley was the mother of Irene and Emo. Emo married Art Bierspot. That was my she stood up for me when I was born. And they were the first owners of the Ermart Bar in L'Anse. The name was a combination of their two names, Ermy and Art. When Arsley divorced John, she founded Grandma's Hotel, which later became the Liberty Hotel on Broad Street. She mostly housed and cooked for lumberjacks. Every meal they would make had a different kind of juice, and at the end of the meal, if there was any of the juice left, she would serve that on Sunday meal. There was a Sunday that there was a guest here that was the owner of Dr. Pepper Pop, and he liked that juice so much it became the recipe of Dr. Pepper that we know today. No one seems to know if she ever received monetary reimbursement for the recipe. This story was broadcasted on Paul Harvey. The rest of the story is on the radio. So my grandmother was the founder of Dr. Pepper, as Prudence Willett. That was my great-great-grandmother's mother. We're talking about 4 generations of Native Americans right where I sit, where I stand here. This is all my family and yours. Bill Omier. He was born in 1873 and he died in 1956. We lived with him for a while, and we called him Pipier and Mimier, and that means Grandma and Grandpa in French.
Start talking, hurry up.
This was my mother, and she was from Quebec, Canada, and I was named after her. My name is really Elizabeth Sharon, and they called me Betsy. And this was my grandma, and we called her Mimier. She was born in 1876. She died in 1941. I was born in 1944.
Okay, what are these little Chinese blue and white cups?
I have no idea.
Okay.
This was my mother's brother, Rene Omier, and he was born in 1909, and he died in a drunk driver hit him on the Skaney Road, and he died in 1936. This was